And back to our top story, 17 days after Pope Francis's death, the Vatican has named the next Pontiff Supreme. Pope Leo XIV is the new face of the Catholic Church. His birth name is Robert Francis Prevost and is the first pope born in the United States of America. Our very own Julian Martiniez spoke with a pair of local professors to get their reaction.
Pope Leo. So tell me a little bit more about him. I know he's American. I know hometown Chicago. I know he's a Cubs fan. I've also heard that today. But who is Pope Leo for those unfamiliar?
Most of his life in the church has been spent working in Peru. He was there as a missionary, as a teacher, later as a bishop. Most of his key ministry has been in Peru. So he hasn't been part of the United States Council of Catholic Bishops. He hasn't been involved in the various, political and sometimes heated disputes that happen in the American church. He's a bit of an outsider to that.
He's also of the Augustinian order. One university very famous that's Augustinian is Villanova, and he has a degree from there from the 1980s. But the Augustinians are known for a combination of intellectual learning, but with love. And so high scholarship, yet a capacity to communicate it in a way to other people. The Augustinians tend to have a disposition where you're trying to eliminate distinctions between people, between rich and poor, learned and unlearned, and carrying on a Christian community where all are invited to the table. And this is very much in the spirit of Francis, especially the whole process of synodality that has been started by Francis and will no doubt continue now under Leo XIV.
Why now does it make sense for an American to be named Pope?
There was always a reservation about having an American Pope because there is already, if I can speak as a political scientist, so much power in the United States in terms of the president of the United States and the political, economic, and military power of the United States. And you would only be in some ways compounding that by having an American Pope. However, I think what's happened here is that Leo XIV has spent most of his recent years in Rome. He was head of the office which deals with the appointment of bishops, so he got to know a lot of the bishops globally. Because of his linguistic capabilities, it was very easy to build bridges across the church community. So I think I'll try to be diplomatic about this. I think what the Vatican today, or the conclave, sent a message, and it's to your point, is that they're presenting in Leo XIV a different style of authority than what you're seeing right now coming out of the leadership of the United States.
Is he going to continue the same kind of path that Pope Francis was carving out for himself, or is he going to go in a different direction?
I think there are signs indicating that he will work in the legacy of Pope Francis, and there are signs that that's what the Council of Cardinals or College of Cardinals as a whole wanted. In their meetings before they met in the conclave to make their votes, they made it pretty clear that they were looking for somebody who was going to further Pope Francis's legacy, dealing with issues of sexual abuse in the church, dealing with financial issues, trying to be someone who's going to minister to the poor and be a voice of, sort of hope to the world. They emphasize that that's what the church needs.
He will sound like Francis in terms of the positions. He will not sound like Francis in terms of the manner. He is much more shy. He's reserved. You're not going to have a lot of off-the-cuff remarks that Francis was noted for. And he's not going to be as charismatic or as dramatic in personality. But I think he's going to be much, much more direct, deliberate. In some ways, those are American characteristics. And methodical in the way he's going to pursue bridge building.
And then the name that Prevost took, Leo XIV, that I think says a lot.
The fact that he chose Leo, his predecessor in this regard is Leo XIII, who was in the latter part of the 19th century. And he was the one who put forth the encyclical Rerum Novarum in 1891, which is the birth of modern Catholic social teaching, which was trying to provide an alternative to capitalism and communism, a approach to regulating the economy, which tries to bring everyone in from the margin. And I think he's going to try to affect this heritage. I don't think it's accidental that he chose Leo. I think it's precisely to be in this vein.
I think, the fact that he chose that name indicates that he is also going to be concerned with social issues, which is also something that Francis was concerned with.
Can you describe for me the role that the modern day Pope has in a world that, increasingly more kind of drifts away from classic religious structures? But yet you look at the Vatican today and the masses were gathered and were cheering as if, even if they were not necessarily of the same denomination, cheering for this man nonetheless.
Whether someone is Roman Catholic or not, or Christian or not, the Pope's an important world figure. And I think that people want to see a Pope who's engaging Christians, other religious leaders, governments in a way that's sort of positive, furthering good. And of course, people have got different views about exactly what's good and what should be emphasized, but people want to see someone who's, inspiring and who's plainly standing up for good causes.
With the secular world, he's going to have to figure out how do you listen on issues such as LGBTQ, which is pervasive there, and yet at the same time, be able to be more open to what are largely moral conservative views in the African church, especially in some aspects of the Latin American church, and universally, again, emphasizing the importance of attesting to the poor, bringing the poor in from the margins, letting their gifts animate the community at a time when our politics seem so fragmented. The international order is in a great deal of instability that we haven't seen probably since the 1930s. This is a figure who could do this bridge building, and it's desperately needed at this moment in time.
Thank you to both Professor Josh Thorough and Professor John Burke for their insight this morning.